Last Thursday, which was October 2nd, 2008, I wrote a short story about the recent financial catastrophe, which was currently taking place on Wall Street. This story is a work of fiction, and at the time I wrote it, back on October 2nd, 2008, the U.S. House of Representatives had not yet passed the bailout of Wall Street. That's why there's a mention in the story of the U.S. Congress having not passed it yet, because I wrote it back on October 2nd, and of course the House of Representatives did not finally pass the bailout package until Friday, October 3rd of last week. And of course no major stock market crash happened like I did in my story, but as I say, this short story, like all short stories, is a work of fiction, and I called this particular short story Fallout on Wall Street. Now, of course, this stock market crash and these events didn't happen last Thursday, October 2nd, but maybe a great financial crunch and crisis and fallout and stock market crash may still happen. But of course, we'll all keep our fingers crossed that no such stock market crash happens, nor that the events I relate in my short story come true. So here, without further ado, is my short story Fallout on Wall Street, which I wrote back on Thursday, October 2nd, 2008. Mr. Philo DeMammon was an investment banker on Wall Street. The last few weeks on Wall Street had been catastrophic. Lehman Brothers had failed. Merrill Lynch had been absorbed by the Bank of America. It was still doubtful whether the House of Representatives would pass U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson's $700 billion bailout bill, although the U.S. Senate had just done so. Philo DeMammon was eating lunch on the top-floor cafeteria of the building where he worked. He had forgotten his cell phone in his office on the 21st floor, a fact for which he cursed himself. As Philo DeMammon sat there eating the last of his submarine sandwich, he noticed a bunch of people who usually spent their lunches yakking on their cell phones were busy jumping out the window. Fools, Philo DeMammon thought to himself. By breaking the glass after jumping straight through the window, all these fools were letting quite a draft in at this altitude. When Philo DeMammon walked over to empty his garbage, he took a quick look out the broken window from which several hundred people had jumped during the course of the noon hour. He looked down. A whole bunch of people were jumping out the windows from lower floors as well. God, no wonder it felt chilly in here, Mammon thought to himself. Philo DeMammon took the empty elevator down to the 21st floor where he worked. As he got off the elevator, the office was deadly quiet. No chitter-chatter about last night's Dancing with the Stars performance on TV, or some secretary whispering to a colleague that she had failed her pregnancy test. Just the occasional loud, piercing scream before some poor falling snook hit the pavement on Wall Street below. Philo DeMammon picked up his cell phone. He had gotten over 36,000 text messages over the course of the noon hour. But after going through the first 10, he deduced that they all pretty much said the same thing. Apparently, the Dow Jones had dropped 10,000 points, a record in history. This was worse than the bust that started the Great Depression of the 1930s. It's 1929 all over again, Philo DeMammon thought to himself. He looked out the window. Coincidentally, exactly 1,929 people were passing his floor at that moment when he looked out, as they were on their way down to the street below. Fortunately for Philo DeMammon, he had wisely invested all of his money in a private Swiss bank account. So unless the Large Hadron Collider, or LHC, had wiped out all his money in that bank, as well as his 10-year supply of Swiss cheese that he had hoarded in the Swiss Alps, he should be okay. Well, No need to work for the rest of the day, he thought, as his company had probably just gone bankrupt anyway. Philo de Mammon took the elevator down to the street. He walked out at the front door of the office building for the last time. Good thing that he brought his umbrella today, he thought, as he opened it up and walked and whistled his way down the street. The umbrella protected him from falling bodies as he walked.